Good morning, class 10 students. I welcome you all on this online virtual digital learning platform provided by Jagrati Classes. Today we'll be doing our new chapter, that is chapter 5 of class 10th. So we'll be starting the chapter 5 of class 10th, and the chapter is periodic classification of elements. So this is again a topic of chemistry, that is periodic classification of the elements. In this chapter, what is our aim? What we want to study or deal with? We want to see that even when many elements were discovered, that is many chemical elements were discovered in history also, then why not they have been classified, or how we got our modern periodic table which we have now. ऐसा तो है नहीं that as the elements were discovered, you got it in the form of the modern periodic table which we have now. No, that was not so. That is, anciently 118 elements, we say that 118 elements, when they were discovered, even at that time also we didn't had any classification of different elements. That is, we didn't have the modern periodic table. So why was there a need for classification actually? The need for classification was that because no one can study and remember the properties of all these 118 elements individually. It is very difficult to memorize or to remember the properties. Even it is difficult to memorize their names. So talking about the properties is a very difficult task. So we'll first see what was the need of classification of these elements into groups. That is, we are seeing how our modern periodic table which we study now, how that arised or how modern periodic table was formulated. So we'll study the need of classification. As I already told you that it was very difficult to study and memorize each element individually. That is, each element cannot be studied individually. So this was a very basic need for classification. It was very difficult to study each element on an individual basis. Therefore, scientists and researchers thought of classifying a huge number of elements which were discovered till that time. Now, the first classification which came, there were many classifications, we are not dealing with that. That is, a preliminary classification which firstly came into existence was one of the scientists discovered or grouped these 118 total elements into two groups. And the initial groups made were metals and non-metals. So this was a very simple basis of grouping these elements, that is, they were grouped in two parts, metals and non-metals. Now the problem was that some elements, as there were not advanced studies or advanced option to study the properties, and all the properties of every element was not known to us. So it was very difficult because some elements had the properties of both metals and non-metals, and some other elements didn't had any common properties either to the metals or to the non-metals. So this classification was rejected because the nature of these elements cannot be grouped under these simple subheadings, that is, either the element may be metallic or it may be non-metallic. So this classification was in turn rejected. Now many other scientists and researchers tried to evolve many classes or many groups, and they took many criteria of classifying these elements. So one of the important classification which we'll study is about Dobryr classification. So this Dobryr scientist classified the elements in a group of 3. So this is also called as Dobryr's triad. Okay? Triad means he classified all the elements in a group of 3. let's suppose he took 3 elements, okay. For an example, he kept 3 elements, that is chlorine, bromine and iodine, in a triad or in a group, because he said that these 3 elements have same properties. What kind of properties were same in them? That is, all the 3 elements, these were non-metals. And we know if something possesses similar properties or similar features, we can combine them in a single group. So Daubigny classified these elements or combined these 3 elements in a single group because they had some similar features or some similar properties. The first same property is that all the 3 were non-metals. The next property which would be observed was that all these elements possess a valency of -1. That is, they contain -1 charges on them. And we have already discussed what do you mean by valency. Valency is the combining capacity of atom with other atom in order to attain noble gas configuration, or you can say in order to get stabilized. So the valency shown by all these 3 atoms were -1. Then one more property you can have in common is that their hydrides were acidic in nature. Their hydrides were acidic in nature. What do you mean by the term hydrides here? Hydrides means when hydrogen gets attached with these 3 atoms or these 3 elements, you call them the hydride form. That is, for example, you get HCl, HBr and Hi. That is hydrogen chloride, hydrogen bromide, and you have hydrogen iodide. So these hydrides showed acidic nature. We have already done the chapter of acid and bases. There you can see that what do you mean by acidic nature? The compounds which can easily donate the hydrogen or H plus ion, that is protons, are termed as acidic. So because considering this HCl, if I dissolve it in a solution, when this HCl is dissolved in the specific or particular solution, what you observe, this HCl breaks down into its respective ions. That is, HCl gives you H plus and Cl negative ion, and in turn this release of H plus ion or protons proves its acidic behavior. So the 3 common properties which were observed in Daubigny's triad classification was that all these 3 elements had same properties, and the same properties I have listed below. That is, they were non-metals, they had the valency of -1, and their hydrides were acidic in nature. Acidic means, I have given you an example, taking the hydride of chloride ion, you get it as HCl. Then if you dissociate this HCl into respective ions, you will get a H plus ion or you will get a proton, and this proton is responsible for acidic nature or acidic behavior. And one more very important property which Daubigny used as his basis of classification. So the important basis for classification used was that in the triad, that is in the group of these 3 elements, the average of, if you take the average of sum of atomic mass of the first and last element, then this average answer will be equal to, then it would be equal to the atomic mass of the middle element. So this was the basis of classification which Daubigny took. We can also calculate and find this, that the basis of classification was what? If I take the mass of chlorine and iodine, that is, you know, the mass of Cl is 35.5, the mass of bromine is 79.9, and the mass of iodine which we have is 127 units. Now the basis of classification, and remember this is very important, that is if I add the average mass, that is if I add the mass of chlorine and iodine, that is if I add the mass of my first and last element of the triad group, and then I take the average. Sum means you have to add your mass of first and last element and then you take out the average of these masses. Then you will approximately get the mass of your middlemost element which is present in your triad. So this would be not exactly equal to, but it would be approximately equal to the atomic mass of the middle element. So this is what you have in your triad here. For example, we can solve this that I said you have a triad of chlorine, bromine and iodine. The respective masses are 35.5, then you have 79.9 and then you have 127. If you take the average, that is you sum both these and then you take the average, that is mass of first element sum with mass of the last element and you are taking the average. Then you'll get approximately 80.1 or 80.2. That is in approximation to the mass of middlemost element. So this is what Daubigner got. Okay. So this was the classification basis of different elements in your triad. That is, if I sum out the average of atomic masses, then you will get the atomic mass which is approximately equal to the mass of your middlemost element. Now, one more example which Daubigner arranged as triad was calcium, strontium and barium. This is also that it is based on, these have similar properties, and if you take out the average atomic mass, that is the average of calcium and barium, you will get the mass of strontium approximately. Then the other features or the other similar properties which this triad has, first we will write that it followed the basis of that classification. That is, strontium had atomic mass equal to the average sum of atomic masses of calcium and barium. Then the next, which properties they all had in common was, they all were having metallic character. That is, all these elements can be classified under metals. The next common thing, that is, they had a valency of +2. They exhibited the stable state in +2 state or +2 valency. Then the next was that they are hydroxides. That is, calcium hydroxide, or firstly I'll write down it in a statement, that is, their hydroxides show basic character. So these all properties were similar for all the three elements included in your triad. That is, all the three elements, the middle element had the mass which is equal to sum of average atomic masses. Then you have that all these were metals. Then their valency was +2 and their hydroxide showed basic character. If I form its hydroxide, that would give me calcium hydroxide, and as you know, for basic character you should have OH negative ion. So if I dissociate this, when I dissolve this calcium hydroxide in my solvent, then this calcium hydroxide will dissociate or break down into its ions, and in turn I'll get Ca2++ 2 OH negative ions. And as you all know, these hydroxide ions are responsible for basicity or the basic character. So we can say that in turn all these hydroxide, that is strontium hydroxide and barium hydroxide, also released OH minus ions, and therefore they were basic in nature. So this was whole of the discussion of Daubigner. There is also a table mentioned in your NCERT books. There is group A, B, C and D, and you have to identify which of the groups follow Daubigner's triad. So you can do it easily. What you have to do is, you take the mass of first and the third element, you add up both the mass, then you take out its average, and the answer of this average would be approximately equal to the mass of middle element. If the answer after taking out average is equal to the mass of that middle element, then this group would act as Daubigner's triad. But if the answer of the average is not equal to that mass of the middle element, then this would not be equal to your Daubigner's triad. So this was all the account of Daubigner. Now talking about the demerits of this classification. Before that, if you say what are the merits of this classification, then the merits would be that he firstly tried to show some relationship between the properties. That is, he took into account some similar properties considering their metallic, non-metallic nature, considering their valency, and considering their hydride or hydroxide forms. So he took one approach, a sensible approach towards classifying these elements. Then the next is that he used certain relation, that is the average sum of masses would be equal to the mass of the next element or the middle element probably. So this was all the merits of Daubigner's triad. The demerits or failures of Daubigner's triad was that, firstly, he could not prove this group of triads for all known elements. That is, he can only make some of the groups. 4 to 5 groups he made based on his triad. So he could not group all the elements in form of triad. So this was a very high or extreme demerit shown by Daubigner's classification, that is, he could not group all the available elements in the form of triad. And because he made only 4 to 5 groups, then this classification failed, and this was a huge demerit of Daubigner. The next demerit you can have is that if I consider the same group of elements, that is, nowadays in the periodic table you know that you have halides or halogens you can say, and these halogens are fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine. So these are the halogens which you have in your periodic table. Now he considered these 3 elements to be in the same triad or same group. And as we know, all of these elements are halogens. So fluorine should also have similar properties because it comes in the same group itself. But when the mass of fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine were calculated and it was averaged out, this group undoubtedly followed Daubigner's triad. But if I include these 3 elements and put them in a group, then the group including the red lines, that is fluorine, chlorine and bromine, did not behave as Daubigner's triad because their average masses could not be equal to the mass of middle element. So this was the drawback. So this drawback can be written in the form that all the elements present in the single group, all elements present in single group did not follow, they did not follow Daubigner's triad. So this was a major drawback exhibited by this classification, that is, all the same elements which are present nowadays in this similar group, they didn't follow this classification made by Daubigner. So this was a great setback or a great failure for Daubigner, and so many other scientists evolved their system of classification and they submitted different bases or different ways of classifying these elements. So the first one which we did, that 1 or 2 of the scientists classified elements simply in metals and non-metals. And as we said that not all elements can behave as metals and non-metals, so that classification was rejected. The next one which we studied, that is the triad classification, it also possessed high demerits, so this was in turn also rejected. Now the next classification, that is the third classification, or you can say the systematic was the second, okay? Because first we are not considering about metals and non-metals. The first we are classifying, that is the triad classification, and now the second system. The second system is your Newland's classification. So another scientist, Newland, came and he also classified elements in his own way. Now the basis of classification of which Newland used was about the tones, the musical notes which you have. So Newland's classification is also called Newland's law of octave. So Newland's law of octave. Now you know that you have many musical notes, that is different musical notes may be referred to as different in different languages, and you have sa, re, ga, ma, then comes pa, dha, ni, and then again it comes back to sa. So these are the musical notes which you have, and accordingly Newland also used this basis of musical notes and classified his elements or the elements in his own way. That is, but one most important point to remember here is that till now whenever Newland classified the available elements, noble gases were not discovered. So here what we have is, when Newland did the classification, noble gases were not discovered. And this proved, when the noble gases got discovered, this proved a high setback or a demerit of this classification. So when noble gases were not discovered, I'm giving one more example that how he classified, okay? The whole of this table is made in your books. This classification only included the first 20 elements. That is, this classification started from hydrogen and it included all the elements till calcium. But remember that in this classification, the noble gases which we know now were not included. That is, you didn't have helium, neon and argon. These all are the noble gases which come in between hydrogen to calcium. If you study the elements starting from hydrogen to the calcium, you will find certain noble gases here. But these noble gases were not discovered when Newland made his classification, so he did not in turn involve these noble gases. So the first element was hydrogen, then helium. You know, hydrogen has atomic number of 1. Helium wasn't included because it was not discovered. Then you had lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine. Remember, then at the 10th atomic number you have neon. So neon was also not discovered. So neon was not put in between anything, because neon should acquire this place. But because it was not discovered, it was not put in classification. Then you have sodium, and likewise you can write all the elements till calcium, omitting these noble gases. This is the symbol for argon, capital A and small r. Now what he observed was that the first element and the 8th element showed similar properties. That is, if you include this group, then all the elements coming in this first group will show similar properties. That is, hydrogen and fluorine will show similar structures or other similar physical properties. Similarly, if you count from this lithium, okay, and if you count 7 elements, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then this element and lithium will show the similar properties. So this was the basis of Newland's law of octave. Or Newland said that every 8th element will show similar properties to the first element. So one very important conclusion which you can draw from Newland's classification, this was that every eighth element shows same physical and chemical properties, same properties I am writing, it showed same properties as the first element. Or you can say that all the elements included in a particular group exhibited same properties. Either they may be the physical properties or they may be the chemical properties. We are not going into this detail, but yes, they possess certain same properties, all the elements which were included in a particular group. That is, if you make this table, then you will get silicon here. Below carbon, you will get silicon. And if you see, we have read in carbon and its compounds that carbon possesses a unique ability to form chain, and this chain forming ability is called catenation. Therefore, silicon also exhibits catenation. Yes, not to that extent, that is many more number of carbons can be joined together in the form of chain, but more number, only 7 to 8 atoms of silicon can attach in the form of chain. But therefore, they both show the property of catenation. Okay, both carbon and silicon. The difference lies in the fact that more number of carbons can join, whereas only 7 to 8 atoms of silicon can join together in the form of catenation to form long chains. But because these both possess the similar properties, so they were kept in the same group. So this you can also include in the drawback of Newland's law of octave. That is, Newland's classification did not include noble gases because till that time noble gases were not discovered. Newland could have done one thing. He could have left empty spaces. Okay, if he had left empty spaces, that is, between fluorine and sodium, neon should come. So if he had left empty spaces at this position, then his classification would not be rejected. We have still adopted, okay? But because he had no space for the noble gases, so this was his drawback. Then the conclusion that every eighth element, this was his conclusion. The next drawback which you can write is, okay, every element was possessing, every eighth element showed similar properties to the first one. But the drawback here is again that he didn't left any vacant spaces. He didn't left any vacant spaces for the new elements which would be discovered later. So this was again a drawback of this Newland's classification. That is, he didn't left any vacant space for the noble gases. Secondly, he didn't left any vacant space for the new elements, because he knew definitely that each day new elements are being discovered in different parts of the world. So yes, definitely the new elements would be discovered continuously. Accordingly, if he should have left some spaces, that if any new element is discovered and it has the property or the similar properties between a group, then it would be kept there. So this was again a drawback of Newland's classification. Now the next is what? A very important feature. That is, you can say its merit. The merit of Newland's classification, okay? So the first merit can be that Newland used atomic mass as the basis of his classification. So this was a very important feature of Newland classification, because Newland firstly used atomic mass as the basis for doing this classification. Then the next, what he arranged all the elements in increasing order of atomic mass. Okay, he arranged all the elements, that is the elements coming from hydrogen to the calcium. All the elements were arranged in increasing order of atomic mass. That is, he arranged elements according to their masses. So we can write the lighter and the heavier elements were separated systematically. These were separated systematically. But from this also one drawback arose. The next drawback which arose was that he made lighter and heavier elements to be arranged in a systematic way. That is, if you see his classification, then if I move from left to right hand side, then the elements which I'll get would have high atomic mass. Okay, this signifies that lithium has a lower mass compared to beryllium, or you can say that beryllium has a higher mass compared to lithium. Similar is the case with all elements, that is, if I see these two groups, then nitrogen will have more mass than the preceding, that is then carbon. And coming on to this sodium element, because it is coming to the right of fluorine, so this would have a heavier mass than fluorine. So this was the basis of his classification, that is, Newland used atomic mass as the basis of his classification. He arranged elements in increasing order. Increasing order means the lighter elements were arranged at the top or at the left hand side and the heavier elements were put on the right. Then the lighter and heavier elements were separated systematically, that is, he gave a systematic approach for separation of light and heavy elements. And yes, I was talking about a drawback which arose from this. That is, he arranged heavier elements till calcium, but the elements coming after calcium were not arranged systematically. Okay? That is, the heavier elements which came after calcium or which were discovered later, they did not fit into the criteria given by Newland's law of octave. So these heavier elements could not be arranged. But yes, the merit is lighter elements were very systematically arranged, were positioned systematically. So this was merits and demerits or drawbacks of Newland law of octave. You should remember the basic principle, that is the basis which Newland used for arranging the elements. The basis was simply what? He arranged elements according to the increasing order of atomic masses. Then he separated lighter and heavier elements because the arrangement was done according to atomic mass. But after calcium, the other heavier elements could not be fitted in his criteria or in his law of octave. And he did not left any vacant spaces for the new elements, and he did not leave even the space for noble gases which were discovered later. So this was all about Newland's law of octave, and that we discovered Daubigner's triad. Now we'll do about the Mendeleev's periodic table, the conclusion, the importance facts, okay, how Mendeleev proposed, what was the basis of classification done by Mendeleev, and then we'll study the modern periodic table, how it came into existence, and then you can also learn the modern periodic table because it would be very useful in further chemistry. Okay, so thank you for joining the class today. Do revise all the concepts because this is a theoretical chapter. There is nothing to understand much. You have to remember the elements, the scientists and their values or the basis of classification. So I'll be trying to explain each and everything to you very clearly, but do learn everything from your textbooks and we'll be providing notes also. So till then, be safe, stay home. Thank you for joining the class.